Hi, I'm Jim Arendt, and we're all stuck at home trying to make the world slightly better. Thought today I'd show you guys all how to make some face masks from materials you might have laying around the house. We're going to go online and find a quick pattern, or we can measure using the yay system. I'm about yay big by yay big. Today's mask is going to be one that kind of fits your face really nice. I think the best mask is the one that you'll wear and that's comfortable. Go ahead and find an old t-shirt and maybe an old pair of jeans. This pair has just about lived its life, so it's a good donor. Gather up the tools that you need, and I'm going to try to make it as few as possible. Scissors, a ruler, some pins, a sewing machine. I even left out the iron. This sewing machine is one of my favorites and the one we're going to use today. I found it on the side of the road. It's a 1960 Singer Touch and Sew. I had to put a new needle in it, but everything else worked. Boy, that's pretty. So if you're not familiar with a sewing machine, let's just run through how to get the cord or thread all the way from that bobbin through the little tension guide up top, down through the tension discs down below, over the take-up spring, through the pickup arm, back down, all the way down, and through the needle. Generally it's front to back or side to side. Invariably, you're going to break a needle eventually. Watch this. Oh, that's the worst. I'm going to loosen that, throw it out. That's why they make them to be replaced. Get my work out of the way. Find myself a few universal needles. These are easy enough to buy if you don't have them. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to run out of bobbin thread. One of the nice features of this touch and sew is I don't have to take the bobbin out of the lower bobbin case. It fills itself with a push of a button. Man, the 1960s were an awesome time. Bring that thread up, cut both ends, and I'm ready to sew again. Just like new. Keep her straight. Big hand wheel on the side I use to turn my needle over, and you'll see me doing this several times through thicker material this time. The little lever on the front controls the direction of the feed dogs, make the material go forward or backward. Now I've adapted the pattern I found online, that's that piece of paper next to me, and traced it out to fit my face a little bit better. I didn't change the dimensions much, I just added a little bit to the bottom to help it get underneath my chin. I'm cutting this t-shirt with a rotary cutter, but if you don't have a rotary cutter, you can easily use a pair of scissors and accomplish the same results. This little band that I'm cutting out for our ties is about 1 3/4 inches. One of the things that's really cool about knit material is that with a pull, they'll curl up on themselves. I'll show you this one more time at actual speed. Give that knit material a tug and watch it curl into a tube. That's really going to help close up our ends for us, and we can sew that flat and have a nice, neat appearance. Like magic. Now we want to get this job done. So everything we're doing today is kind of on the fly, very little measuring, nothing too exact. We're going to get these masks made. Cut this denim up. What I want to do is kind of remove the seams, get those out of my way, and dissect it for the largest pieces of material that'll fit my pattern. I've labeled this cardboard pattern Mask 2.0. Now I can save myself a little bit of trouble if I align up my pattern to take advantage of the stretch of the material and double it up so that I only have to cut through it once. However, denim can be difficult to cut, so if you'd rather, go ahead and just cut one at a time. I've got a little bit of interfacing, and I'm going to use that as a third layer in one of my masks that I'm making. It adds a little bit of filtration. Although these masks, of course, are not medical grade, they will cut down on your exposure. Right now we're working on the wrong side of everything, and I'm making a little fabric sandwich. There it is. Good side of my material is on the inside, the wrong side is on the outside. Now for the fun part. First we'll make the ties that go behind our head. So I'm just gently finger pressing my t-shirt material into about the width of my sewing foot, using the machine itself as my measuring tool. Here it is from a couple different angles so that you can see it happen. Now if you take your time and you're careful, you can sew a pretty straight line without too much effort. Remember that most of the job of operating a sewing machine is steering. I'm not the world's greatest driver. Curl those ends over and give them a couple stitches so that they don't come unraveled. Just one side. These are the ones that go behind your head. Trim off my strings. Now if you're not a super confident sewer, you can draw in the stitching line that you'd like to follow to help you make sure that you don't miss anything or go off the edge. But remember, it's just thread. You can undo this, you can sew it again. I'm going to do it from the opposite side and just use the guides that are printed on the base of the sewing machine to help me follow that curve. Back stitching will lock it. I'm just running the machine in reverse. That way my seam doesn't come unraveled, and if I turn it inside out, you can see that it's already starting to take shape. So as I'm stitching my pieces together, you can see that I'm cutting here a little bit of triangular pizza shaped slices. That'll help this curved fabric lay over, because denim's so stiff it doesn't really want it to stretch along a curve, so I'm giving it a place to break. Now the t-shirt material, because it's a knit, is much more stretchy, and we don't need to cut out any allowances to give our fabric the opportunity to fold over. Here I just want to make sure that I'm putting my two right sides together. Those are the sides that will be on the outside eventually, and I'm matching up my center line, seeing how everything fits. As I go, I like to trim off the excess thread, and if I lay these two pieces out, you can kind of see how they're starting to come together, and to make sure that they'll fit together, you can lay them right on top of each other. Now we've got to turn them inside out and do a few more things. We're going to attach our cords used to tie these behind our head. Now it's important to remember that the long side is not the side that we're sewing, so we need to kind of pin it out of the way. I'm going to attach mine to the wrong side of my fabric with a quilter's pin, and then just tuck the long ends into the good side of my fabric. This is probably the trickiest piece of sewing that you're going to have to do, and on your first mask you might screw it up and have your ties on the outside of your mask. That's not uncommon. just rip them open with a seam ripper and you can sew them to the right side. Practice, practice, practice. There we are. Tuck everything inside. Put your t-shirt material wrong side out. And one thing I like to point out here is that the two nose piece seams can be folded in opposite directions to reduce the bulk. That'll help you find it easier to sew and also make it more comfortable as it rides over your nose. Alright, now that everything's tucked in place and my long ends are tucked inside, I'm going to go ahead and start sewing up one side. This is the side closest to my ear. And slow down and go over the ear pieces. I might have to turn my machine by hand to get over some of the thicker instances or lift the pressure foot that holds all the material together. That's that little lever I just lifted up. Turn the corner, and now I'm going to head up towards the nose. Now this is played at about twice speed, but I'll show you where my other hand is going. So rather than use the power of the sewing machine, I'm going to use my hand to turn it over and over so that I can navigate that difficult spot. I get to the corner, again I'll lift the pressure lever, turn my work, put my pressure foot back down, and sew that third side. What's nice about these masks is there's really not that much sewing. I like the sewing because it's the funnest part. Now that I've locked my stitches in, I'm checking my work to make sure that my alignment's good before I get too enthusiastic about starting on that bottom edge. Here what I'm about to do is sew 1/2 of the bottom, and I'll stop in the middle. Run my machine in reverse to lock the stitch and remove my work. The next part is just showing you with some different material. This is another mask that I made about the same time, and I'm going up and over those ear pieces. I think it's a little easier to see in this view. Now that pressure foot has to kind of ride up and down over different thicknesses of material, and that can be hard on your machine. Just slow down and lift the pressure foot if necessary. Now I'm going to turn this right side out. It's starting to take shape. Actually looks like something. Alright, now everything's on the right side, which is the appearance side of your fabric. And what I need to do is take care of the hole that I've left to turn my work inside out. So what I need to do is curl the edges over and just finger press to make sure the raw edges of the fabric are inside before I begin top stitching around the exterior. Now if you do have an iron, a quick press here can really ease the work. However, everything I did for this demonstration, I skipped the ironing. I mean, I like to sew, not iron. So I'm going around very close to the outside edge. This will help flatten the work and reinforces the edge of the material. Around the nose again, it's important to slow down, to really kind of tug and pull on the fabric to make sure that everything's gonna lay flat. Because these are shaped objects, they're not as easy to sew or to shape as objects that might lay flat like a pillowcase. So all I'm really doing here is moving the material around, making sure that I don't catch it accidentally on the back side, and navigating slowly around this workpiece. Now when I get all the way around, what's nice is the hole that I had used to turn the work right side out has been sealed up, and I just need to trim off the excess string. There. If you want to stop here, you pretty much could. You've got a pretty serviceable mask. It'll hold its shape. It's very soft on the inside because it's a t-shirt material. My center seams match up. If I was feeling extra special, I might do some top stitching down the middle piece. But there's improvements to be made. We're going to try a nose piece. I've done a few prototypes of this and find that it's really helpful, especially if you wear glasses. There's nothing worse than having glasses that fog up. We found a piece of aluminum on the road, or you could use a piece of wire or other suitable bendable metal material. I filed the edges and made them smooth so they wouldn't tear my fabric, and pounded out any bumps with a hammer. Now I'm just taking a piece of scrap denim and I'm going to make a quick pocket. Notice I'm not doing any measuring here. I'm just using the size of the metal itself to kind of estimate or guesstimate how much material I might need to make a little pocket for it. And I've turned my material inside out, and I'm just going to create a little pouch for it to sit into. Sew two sides, and then we'll have to turn it right side out. This is my least favorite part. Small things are really difficult to right side out. There are some tricks, and better sewers than me know those tricks, but I'm using my scissors and a little bit of patience to kind of get the material all the way turned right side out, poking out the corners, and then I'll just top stitch the edges to help everything seal up and lay flat. Now I'm going to insert this little piece of aluminum. I chose aluminum because it was available. Like I said, I found it on the side of the road. It also doesn't corrode, so it's not going to rust if I get this mask wet or hand wash it. And there's a little bit of excess all the way around that piece of material so that I'm not going to run into it with a sewing machine. I'll just trim this to length, trim my corners to remove some of the bulk, fold my edges in, and those raw edges will now be on the inside when I sew this little pocket shut. Tuck, tuck, tuck. If you're nervous around a sewing machine, a pair of scissors can be a third hand that lets you hold things close to the needle without fear of stabbing yourself. Now I'm just going to put this, I'm going to bend this approximately in half using my guesstimation system, and that little bend should line up with the center of the nose piece, and I'm just going to put it on the inside of this mask slowly and carefully so as to avoid any of that metal pulling the material into shape, kind of reshaping the mask as I go around. You can see me kind of struggling to get that straight piece of metal to conform to that curve. But if you have patience, it really doesn't take that long. And we'll get all the way around to the other side, remove our work, and now it'll look something like this. Totally repositionable, really helps conform around glasses and eyewear, and boy, do you look good when you're done. Well, you're ready to venture out into the world. Be safe out there. Don't go out unless you have to. But if you do have to, I hope you've got your upcycled denim face mask. Thanks. My name's Jim Arendt. You guys be safe.